Okay, we're back in the RAMBAM's Mishneh Torah. This is Sefer, Ahavah, the Book of Love. We're in Hilchot Tzitzit, which is the laws of Tzitzit. So, chapter 2, so Parak Beit. It says, the Tallit mentioned throughout the Torah is wool dyed a light blue. This is the color of the sky, is visible to the eye when the sky is clear of clouds. The Tallit mentioned regarding Tzitzit must be dyed in a specific process, which maintains its beauty and does not fade. It is not dyed by that specific dyeing process. It is unfit for Tallit. Even if it is the color of the sky, for example, if it was dyed with indigo or with other darkening dyes, it is unfit for Tzitzit. The wool of a ewe whose mother was a goat and was fathered by a ram is unfit for Tzitzit. How is Tallit dyed for Tzitzit? One takes wool and soaks it in lime, and then washes it until it is then washes it until it is clean. It is boiled in alum in similar substances as dyers do, so that it absorbs the dye. One then takes the blood of the hilazon, an aquatic creature whose color is like that of the sea, and whose blood is ink black and is found in the Mediterranean Sea. The blood is placed in a vat along with dyes such as potash and the like, as dyers do. It is brought to a boil, and the wool is dipped inside it until it is a sky blue color. This is the way Tallit used for Tzitzit is made. I believe I have to point out that the Murex trunculus does not match that description. All right. The Tallit used for Tzitzit must be dyed with the intent of purpose for the mitzvah. If it was dyed without intent for this purpose, it is unfit. The vat used for the dyeing process, if one dyed a small amount of wool in it to see whether the color is good or not, the entire vat is rendered unfit. What should one do instead? One should take dye from the vat in a small vessel and place in it the small amount of wool used for testing. He should then burn it, for it was dyed for testing. The dye in the vessel used for testing should be poured out, for it has been rendered defective and unfit. And Tallit should be dyed with the rest of the dye which was not rendered defective. Tallit should only be purchased from an expert, as we are concerned that it may not have been dyed with intent of purpose, even if it was purchased from an expert. If it was checked and one discovers that it was dyed with a different type of darkening dye, which is impermanent, it is unfit. How does one check to see if it has been properly dyed or not? One takes straw and the slime of a snail, along with urine that has oxidized over 40 days. The Tallit should be soaked in a mixture of them for 24 hours. If it retained its color and did not fade, it is acceptable. If it did fade, one should take a barley flour dough, which is left to sour for fish sauce. The faded Tallit should be placed inside it. The dough should be baked in an oven. The Tallit should then be removed from the bread and examined. If it is more faded than it was previously, it is unfit. While its color became stronger, it is darker than what it was before it was baked. It is acceptable. The courtyard where Tallit is sold, which has a reputation for being trustworthy, one may purchase Tallit from them without the need for testing, and this presumption is maintained until there is reason to suspect otherwise. If one left Tallit with a non-Jew for safekeeping, it is unfit, for he may have switched it. If it is in a vessel sealed with double seal, one seal within the other, it is acceptable, but with only a single seal, it is unfit. One who finds Tallit in the market, even if one finds strands that are cut and twisted like the strands of Tzitzit, it is unfit. If one purchases a Tallit with Tzitzit at the market from a Jewish seller, it may be presumed kosher. If it was purchased from a Gentile, it is purchased from a merchant, it may be presumed kosher. But if purchased from a regular person who is not a merchant, it is unfit. A Tallit which is completely red or green or of other colors, one should make its white strands like its own color. If green, the strand should be green. If red, the strand should be red. If it was entirely of Tallit, the white strands may be of any color other than black, because it is too similar to Tallit. They should all be wound with one strand of Tallit, as is done with other undyed Tzitzit. The punishment of one who does not affix white strands is greater than the punishment of one who does not affix Tallit. And that's white strands, meaning the color of the garment. Okay. Does not for the white is available to anyone, while the Tallit is not available to anyone. For it is not available in all places at all times, due to the dye we described. Okay, the difference with the Murex trunculus is that it doesn't appear to have that same. He doesn't. So what they're doing is they're putting it out in the sun, and the sun transforms it from the, I don't remember exactly what color it is, to, it's like I think it's like argamon. I think it's like purple, more closer to purple, and then it turns to that blue color. But the problem is the RAMBAM does not describe that process at all. And on top of that, I do not believe that the blood of that Murex trunculus is black, as he describes as well. But anyway, continuing. Chapter 3, the garment upon which one is biblically required to affix tzitzit is a garment that has 4 corners, or more than 4. Its size must be sufficient to cover the head and the majority of the body of a child old enough to walk alone in the market without needing another person to watch over him and walk with him. And the garment must be made of wool or linen only. Wool or linen, not together. But a tallit made of any other material, such as garments made of silk, cotton, camel hair, rabbit hair, goat plume, and similar materials, only bears a rabbinic obligation in the mitzvah of tzitzit, so that one will be heedful of the mitzvah of tzitzit. That is, if it has 4 corners or more, and its size is as we described. This is because all garments referred to in the Torah without further specification are only those made of wool or linen exclusively. The verse states on the 4 corners of your clothing, so 4 to the exclusion of 3-cornered garment, or perhaps 4 would be, or perhaps 4 would exclude a 5-cornered garment. The Torah therefore states, with which you cover yourself. Even if it has 5 corners or more, why is a 5-corner garment obligated and a 3-cornered garment exempted when both do not have 4 corners? It is because 5 includes 4. Therefore, when one affixes tzitzit to a 5 or 6-cornered garment, one only affixes them on 4 most distant corners out of those 5 or 6, as it states, on the 4 corners of your clothing with which you cover yourself. A garment made of cloth with corners of leather is obligated in the mitzvah of tzitzit. If it is made of leather and its corners are of cloth, it is exempt. If we only follow the main portion of the garment, a garment belonging to 2 partners is obligated, as it states, on the corners of their garments. That's a quote from the Torah. The word your garments only comes to exclude a borrowed garment. For a borrowed tallit is exempt from tzitzit for 30 days. Beyond that, it requires tzitzit. Okay. The white strands of tzitzit on a woolen garment should be made of wool, while those of a linen garment should be made of linen, which is its kind. Other garments should have their white strands made of their material, such as silk strands for a silk garment, plume strands for a goat plume garment. If one wishes to make the white strands for any other garment out of wool or linen, he may do so. For wool or linen fulfill one's obligation for both their own material and for other materials. Other materials fulfill the obligation in garments of the same material, but do not fulfill the obligation for other materials. It is permitted to affix woolen strands on a linen garment or linen strands on a woolen garment, despite its being only white without the Tallit. It would make sense that it should be permitted for the prohibition of shatnez, meaning the mixture of wool and linen. It is permitted regarding tzitzit, for Tallit is wool, and it is inserted in a linen garment. Why do we not do so? Because it is possible to make its white strands of the same material, and whenever one finds a conflict between a positive commandment and a negative commandment, if we can fulfill them both, it is preferable. Well, if it is not possible to fulfill them both, the positive commandment overrides the negative commandment. And here it is possible to fulfill them both. One should not insert Tallit in a linen garment. Rather, one should only affix white linen strands. Not because the positive commandment of tzitzit is overridden by the prohibition of shatnez, but rather by rabbinic decree, lest one cover oneself with it at night when one is not obligated in tzitzit, and would therefore transgress a negative commandment when there is no countering positive commandment. For obligation of tzitzit is only by day and not by night, as it states, and you shall see it. So at a time when they can be seen. So a blind person is obligated in tzitzit, for although he cannot see, others do see him. It is permitted to wear tzitzit at night, both on weekdays and on Shabbos, although it is not the time of its obligation, as long as he does not recite the blessing. From what hour can one recite the blessing of tzitzit in the morning? From the time when there is enough light to discern between the Tallit and the white in the tzitzit. What is the blessing to be recited on them? Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and has commanded us to wrap ourselves in tzitzit. Anytime one wraps oneself in a garment with tzitzit during the day, he must recite the blessing before wrapping himself. One does not recite the blessing on tzitzit when making them, for the culmination of the mitzvah is wrapping oneself in it. It is permitted to enter a laboratory or a bathroom with tzitzit. If the white strands or the Tallit were severed, one may throw them on the trash heap, for although used for a mitzvah, the strands have no intrinsic sanctity. It is forbidden to sell a Tallit with tzitzit to a Gentile before untying its tzitzit, not because they have intrinsic sanctity, but because he might wrap himself in it, and a Jew will accompany him, assuming that he is Jewish, and the Gentile might kill him. Women, slaves, and minor children are biblically exempt from tzitzit, but by rabbinic ordinance, any minor who knows how to wrap himself is obligated in tzitzit in order to train him to fulfill mitzvot. Women or slaves who wish to wrap themselves in tzitzit may do so without reciting the blessings. So too regarding other positive commandments from which women are exempt. If they wish to perform them without reciting the blessing, we do not protest them. So one whose gender organs are unclear and a hermaphrodite, so who has both male and female organs, are obligated in all mitzvot out of doubt. They therefore may not recite the blessing, but must perform the mitzvah without reciting the blessing. How is the obligation of the mitzvah of tzitzit incurred? Any person who is obligated in this mitzvah who wishes to clothe himself in a garment that requires tzitzit must first insert tzitzit into it and only then don it. If one wore it without tzitzit, he has violated a positive commandment. However, for as long as no one wears a garment that requires tzitzit, it remains folded and put away. It is exempt from tzitzit. But if it is not it is exempt from tzitzit. So, for it is not the tallit that bears the obligation, but it is rather the obligation of the wearer. Although one is not obligated to purchase a tallit and to wrap himself in it so that he will be obligated to affix tzitzit to it, it is not appropriate for a pious person to exempt himself from the mitzvah. Rather, one should always make an effort to be wrapped in a garment that requires tzitzit in order to fulfill the mitzvah. One should be especially heedful of this at prayer time. It is very disgraceful for a Torah scholar to pray while not wrapped in tzitzit. One should always be very careful regarding the mitzvah of tzitzit, for Scripture considers it to be equal to all the other mitzvot and regards all other mitzvot as dependent upon it, as it states, "And you shall see it and remember all the mitzvot of Hashem. Blessed is he who has assisted us." I want to point out, actually, that the Baal Shem Tov brings down that the Archangel Gabriel, that he would give everything that he knows and all the merits that he has to have the merit of one tzitzit on the corner of the garment. So basically, if you could take that mitzvah and divide it into fourths, he would be willing to give up everything that he knows and everything that he's worked for just that 1/4 merit of the mitzvah. So it is extremely important. And actually, this brings to mind the some things that, Rabbi Duvi, he talks about, he has a couple lectures regarding a story that has happened to himself and somebody that he knew at a camp regarding the protective nature of Tallit and tzitzit. And it's very interesting because if you could say that somebody like the Archangel Gabriel would be magnetized towards the mitzvah of tzitzit, that they desire so badly to be able to perform it, you could just imagine, if that draws, protection to you. Just like, and we say protection, I don't mean this lightly, because like whenever you go into the bathroom, the RAMBAM, he prescribes, and this is in the Talmud, he prescribes the little phrase that you say before you enter the bathroom, be honored, honorable, holy ones, servants of the Most High, help me, guard me, wait for me as I enter and exit, as this is the way of mankind. So they say that it's not the custom to do that today because, people are not on such a high level, but, I beg to differ that, maybe we're not surrounded by such spiritual protection and things like that because we don't treat things as highly as we should. And we should respect the fact that there is, and recognize the fact that there is, angelic help and protection that surrounds us due to the merits of the mitzvot that we perform. So let that be a big encouragement to you. So actually, in the video, in the description of this video, I do want to link the videos for Rabbi Duvi's story. So watch them; they will change your life. And then on top of that, I do have a playlist for articles and essays, and in there I do have an article that I go over regarding the the Chilazon idea of Tallit, as well as oh man, I don't remember the scientific names of these animals, these creatures, but I do think that it is a little the controversy still. I don't think it's over. I mean, there's people that say that we know what Tallit is and stuff like that, but it doesn't exactly match what we have as descriptions in our sources. So it's not as clear cut as what it seems, but there's information out there. I have the book, what is it, Royal Purple, and by Rabbi Herzog. But anyway, so hopefully you've learned something from that. Take it, use it.